Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this marvellous Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day to all of those who are celebrating, doing anything. I think it's bank holiday here. I don't even know. I think it is like bank holiday or something going on. I don't know. I'm having one of those days. I've already headbutted one of the shelves and knocked it clean off the wall this morning. But let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. You're looking absolutely amazing, I must add. But a lot of you have reached out and you've been asking me why I haven't been covering the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, because obviously it's a bit virulent at the minute. It's a bit nuts. And I'll tell you why I hadn't initially touched on it, because it was literally like a replay of the Summer Wells case. Literally, the entire situation looked nigh on identical. You had a house that looks like a scene from The Hills Have Eyes, even down to the fact that it's got this freaking camper van thing, or that motorhome, whatever it is, in the back of the garden, was similar to Granny's in the Summer Wells case. And we've got people who seemingly goes to sleep and then the children goes missing while they're asleep, which again is just it's literally nigh on identical. And I thought, what else is there to say? What else is there to say about a case that's clearly not what it seems? But some of you may not have been following it. Some of you may be living under a rock. Some of you may just want to hear what I have got to say. If you want me to continue talking about the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case, then do let me know down below. But let's just have a look at what is going on in the media reference this case. So we've got this, which seems to be the last real Canadian news, because this is Nova Scotia. So 3 weeks since 2 children were reported missing in rural Nova Scotia. You've seen a couple of images there. This is the sort of the area that we're dealing with, and the story around these 2 children is just as messed up as well. We'll see if these dig into it. If not, then I'll dig into it afterwards. But it says Lansdowne Station, it's been 3 weeks since 2 young children were reported missing from their rural home in northeastern Nova Scotia, and police have yet to say if they have found any evidence pointing to their whereabouts. Police say they believe 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack wandered away from their family's home in Lansdowne Station. I don't think so. During the next 5 days, an extensive search was conducted by as many as 160 trained volunteers who were joined by tracking dogs, helicopter crews, police using aerial drones equipped with heat-seeking technology. So we're talking about a load of people with a load of equipment that you would think would be able to find these 2 if they'd just wandered off. Do you know what I mean? The search covered more than 5 square kilometres of hilly, heavily wooded terrain around Gairloch Road, about 140 kilometres northeast of Halifax. There's a picture of the 2 there. Do either of them look like they have got the skills and ability to outsmart 160 trained volunteers using equipment that is not limited to heat-seeking technology? I don't think so. I do not think so. But on May 7th, the search was scaled back as the RCMP announced there was little chance the siblings could have survived in the woods for that long. Later that day, Daniel Robert Martle, who has described himself as a missing children's stepfather, told the Canadian press that he had voluntarily attended a 4-hour interview with major crime investigators. It's been 100% cooperating. He said in an interview at the time, I gave them my phone, offered them D-rug tests, and offered them lie detector tests. The Mounties say they searched ponds, streams around Lansdowne Station on that May 8th and 9th, and on May 13th, the Mounties said some of the children's relatives were among those identified for formal interviews. Now, what I will say, obviously he's taken a lie detector test, which, you know what, he's taken a lie detector test. Maybe he's passed it, maybe he didn't. But let's just look to the Michael Vaughan case, for instance, and learn that Michael Vaughan's father, he didn't pass his lie detector test. He seemingly failed his lie detector test. So how do you feel about that? Because you've then got to think, well, the credibility of that test in itself is shady as fuck, or that a child's parent couldn't be involved in the disappearance and potentially something far, far worse. And the lie detector could show that they're lying, and then law enforcement ignores it. So I'm not putting much gravity on the lie detector test itself. But look, he's done a lie detector test. He's offered himself up. I'm sure that he didn't really have a choice. But it says the Mounties say the search pond streams around Lansdowne Road May 8th and 9th, and on May 13th, the Mounties said some of the children's relatives were among those identified for formal interviews. By that time, the RCMP said investigators had received more than 180 tips from the public, and officers had identified 35 people to formally interview, including residents of the local community. Police have repeatedly said there is no evidence to suggest the children were abducted, which again, we had the same issue here with the Summer Wells case, where the law enforcement are saying there's no evidence to suggest the children were abducted. Are you fucking kidding? Right, around this story, so the children don't attend school because Lily's got a cough, so the parents apparently keep the kids off because she's got a cough. So you've got a situation where they should be at school, they're not at school. And then you've got a situation where they literally vanish off the face of the planet from a rural property that, again, looks like a scene from The Hills Have Eyes. You've then got, seemingly, it's been said that things were said that don't make sense by the parents, or the timeline has changed, elements of the case have changed, and there's been some variables added. And then you've had these professionals who have come out, like the dog handler, for instance, who said, this doesn't make sense to me. You would find something. We would come across something, and there is literally nothing. And that's the thing that doesn't make sense. So the fact, no evidence to suggest the children were abducted. So what do you genuinely think that these kids walked off? I believe even to the point where, similar in the Sebastian case, the shoes seemingly left with no fucking shoes on. Anyway, let's just have a look over to here, because this Reddit, which is, I wouldn't say always go to Reddit for brilliant information, but it says this week there were several updates and experts' opinions given. A second, more focused search effort was concluded on Tuesday, May the 20th. Search and rescue teams renewed their efforts to find 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan on Saturday and Sunday, covering more ground and focusing on Gairloch Road near their house. There were a few probability areas around waterways and stuff like that where we put teams back around, say search manager Amy Hansen. Now that they haven't found anything there, they have to determine their next steps based on tips and investigative leads. They're going to start closest to the children and work their way out, said Chris Lewis, former OPP commissioner. If those children are not in that bush, then what happened to them? Lewis said the children may not be alive, but they still have to be found. Children's stepfather, Daniel Martle, says he wants police to exhaust all resources. Bring cadaver dogs. They search for anything they can find. I want as much as they can do, he said. It's just pure exhaustion at this point. Sadness just turns to anger at this point because there are no answers. I mean, I hope every day, but the hope just turns into anger because there is nothing. Sullivan children still missing. And it says Glenn Brown, who worked as an operational dog handler in the RCMP in several provinces for 26 years, said the fact the Sullivan children haven't been found is just really strange. I find it hard to believe that a 6- and 4-year-old would just disappear like that, said Brown, who was involved in hundreds of searches during his career. I can guarantee you, if I was still working today, it would be the thing to be racing around your mind all the time. Where would they have gone? We have done everything. Robert Coaster, a search mission coordinator, said it's rare to never find the subject of a search. It only happens in about 5% of cases. And again, you have to think back to who you're searching for and what is their ability to get beyond the reach of these people who are searching. Former homicide investigator Stephen Ryan has been following the case closely and believes the lack of witnesses is likely presenting a major obstacle. The story that the mum and the stepdad had provided to the police was that they woke up and the kids were gone. Given that there is no witness as to what happened, that leaves a very gaping hole in the investigation. Ryan says a search may have been scaled back, but a multi-layered investigation is still active. There is an awful lot going on behind the scenes, around the clock, while the police look for these two children, or try to see if there was foul play involved in any way. In addition to suspecting foul play, kidnapping has not been ruled out. According to Ryan, missing persons cases are traumatizing for any community, especially a small, closely knit area like Lansdowne Station. Everyone is a suspect, said Ryan. You've got a small community, and they are all peering out of the window, looking at vehicles driving by and wondering if this could be the person that took these two children, and they want to know what happened to these two children. Search for Pictou County siblings continues despite setbacks, as we move forward through the timeline. Michelle Ginnis, an associate professor in the criminal justice department at the University of Louisiana in Lafayette, said the facts of the case and apparent lack of evidence makes it an anomaly. It doesn't meet a lot of the normal criteria for what we would see in these types of cases, said Ginnis, whose research areas include missing persons and juvenile justice. Usually there is evidence in some way that would suggest something nefarious has happened. It mirrors those adult missing persons cases where we call it quiet disappearances. There's no evidence. A few details stand out to Ginnis as usual, including the children's absence from school that week, which is a massive, massive red flag to me. The children's stepfather, Daniel Martin, told CBC News the children were not in school the Thursday or the Friday, the morning of the disappearance, due to illness. They were also not at school on Wednesday due to professional development day. So you've got a long hole there, or a big hole. It could be just an incredibly bad timing that they had 48 hours unaccounted for before the disappearance, but that's just one of the things that stands out in my head, she said. Police will not say if anyone else had contact or saw the children in the days leading up to their disappearance. Gina said she believed police should be just considering whether a parent played a part. And then it just goes through some statistical analysis and what generally is the when kids go missing, 9 times plus out of 10 there is involvement of the family. That's just the way it is. Now look, I have not come to any conclusions, albeit that this is weird as fuck. And I think that every single avenue needs to be looked at. Like I say, it reeks of the Summer Wells case, absolutely mirror images it. And yeah, if you want me to continue covering the case and do more deep dives into it, do let me know down below. But for now, let's just say this ain't looking good, and I don't think they just simply wandered off themselves into the bush. Love you all. Mwah.